You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Right now, folks, I want to go to somebody who worked in national security, Malcolm Nance. Malcolm, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. How you doing?
I am very honored to have followed General Honore. He is amazing.
Absolutely. I was watching a report, Malcolm, on Ali Velshi at MSNBC earlier, and he had Ken Delanian on, who was saying that there is a particular unit in the intelligence community that tracks pandemics. They saw this early on. They knew the Chinese were lying early on. They funneled that information up to the White House, but it was ignored. That, to me, is something that is critically important, that you have a particular unit whose sole job is to track things along these lines. This administration just ignored them and acted as if this was not actually a pandemic that was brewing, and they just waited and waited.
Well, you have to understand, their baseline of understanding of anything that happens is always within the context of Barack Obama's White House. So, of course, as we know, in 2018, they dismantled the Global Pandemic Support Unit. That's the organization on the National Security Council staff, which had representatives in the old executive office building, whose job it was to predict, identify, and track global pandemics when they broke out, because the Obama administration had to deal with swine flu, H1N1, and with the Ebola crisis. So, of course, it's always better to be prepared at the national security level for this. Additionally, the Trump administration cut 80% of the Center for Disease Control's global pandemic response, which means everything that would have been in place to identify and pass more accurate information up and work with the Chinese to get this was gone. We literally disarmed ourselves. So what you're speaking of, this intelligence organization, is really an organization that's based on the United States Army's Medical Research Institute for Infectious Diseases, USAMRIID.
It's called the National Center for Medical Intelligence.
Right. And as a component of the U.S. Army, they are the tracking unit for all sorts of terrible things that are out there, including the development of biological weapons and Ebola outbreaks and smallpox outbreaks around the world. Because, as you know, we have service members deployed all over the world. They feed in to the National Security Council through the Pentagon and to the Army's Medical Institute of Infectious Diseases, USAMRIID, which is their big sword for attacking, defending, and researching. It's the Army CDC. And getting that intelligence up to the National Security Council so that the White House can consume it. These reports are not political. They are passed up with due accord. They don't pull any punches. They send the intelligence up. It's up to the National Security Council and the consumers in the White House to read these reports and take them seriously. And to be quite honest, as we can tell by the sort of xenophobic, semi-racist way the White House tends to respond to things, they saw it as a Chinese problem that they didn't have to deal with. And of course, now that all those experts were gone from the National Security Council, the Trump administration was listening to itself.
Here's of course, at today's news conference, Yamiche Alcindor, the PBS, specifically asked Trump about the disbanding of this pandemic unit in the National Security Council. And this is the question and the answer.
PBS NewsHour. My first question is, you said that you don't take responsibility, but you did disband the White House Pandemic Office, and the officials that were working in that office left this administration abruptly. So what responsibility do you take to that? And the officials that worked in that office said that the White House lost valuable time because that office wasn't disbanded. What do you make of that?
Well, I just think it's a nasty question, because what we've done is, and Tony had said numerous times that we've saved thousands of lives because of the quick closing. And when you say me, I didn't do it. We have a group of people. I could ask perhaps my administration, but I could perhaps ask Tony about that, because I don't know anything about it. I mean, you say we did that. I don't know anything about it.
You don't know
We're
about
spending,
the,
no,
about
I
the
don't know.
reorganization that happened at the National Security
It's the administration.
Council.
Perhaps they do that. You know, people let people go. You used to be with a different newspaper than you are now. You know, things like that happen.
But this was
Please go ahead. We're doing a great job. Let me tell you, these professionals behind me and these great, incredible doctors and business people, the best in the world, and I can say that, whether it's retailers or labs or anything you want to say, these are the best in the world. We're doing a great job. We have 40 people right now, 40. Compare that with other countries that have many, many times that amount. And one of the reasons we have 40 and others have, and again, that number's going up, just so you understand. And a number of cases, which are very small, relatively speaking, it's going up. But we've done a great job because we acted quickly, we acted early. And there's nothing we could have done that was better than closing our borders to highly infected areas.
Again, you're sitting here listening to him talk about closing the borders. The reality is Mexico has fewer than 10 cases. The United States has more than 1,000. In fact, Mexico is looking at closing their borders to keep Americans out. What's also quite interesting is that he said, I didn't know anything about that. Yet Senator Sherrod Brown released a letter, Malcolm. Henry, go to my iPad, please. This is a letter dated May 18th, 2018. Where Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio asked him specifically about this. It says here, National Security Council, I am concerned by Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer's departure from the NSC, elimination of his Global Health Security Office, and reassignment of the office's team members. Global health security is a national security priority. Maintaining the NSC's Global Health Security Office is key to this prioritization. Donald Trump is a liar. He's lying. He knew about it. He was informed about it 2 years ago, and I'm going to call it for what it is. He was nasty to Yamiche. He's always nasty to black women who are reporters who cover the White House or black women in Congress. But the fact of the matter is he is lying. And then they say, oh, well, the administration. It's your administration. This is a man who accepts no responsibility for anything. It's always, it's somebody else. Can't blame me.
Well, that's absolutely right. And let me tell you, Rear Admiral Zimmer was his appointee to that organization. And then when the National Security Council, along with, crazy guys like Seb Gorka and, John Bolton came in, they eliminated this office. And the only reason they eliminated it, they say that they reorganized it and moved it around. No, they zeroed it out and then cut the CDC's budget 80%. Because they have a xenophobic way of looking at Ebola. They think of it as a disease of black people that comes from, people who are consuming monkeys. That's as may be. But the point is, it is a global disease. It can become a pandemic, and as we saw, could reach to the United States through our healthcare providers. The same thing with SARS and H1N1, Middle East respiratory disease, which came from Saudi Arabia. You don't hear them, haranguing about that. Donald Trump, we all know, flat on his face, is a liar. He takes no responsibility for anything. But it's the responsibility of the intelligence community and the healthcare community to inform him. But we saw what he did right out of the box. He denied it ever happened. He said for almost 5 weeks that this was a hoax, and that it was a trick that was being played by the news media against him in order to discredit his administration. That is not the case. I don't want to see Donald Trump fail in this circumstance because American citizens will die and are dying from this global pandemic. But for him to brag about 40 people, who have died and, that we have the lowest rate of infection, we don't even know the number because he failed in his fundamental job as president of the United States to respond accurately. And this is why people don't have a great memory of the swine flu outbreak, because the Obama administration acted aggressively within 11 days. It wasn't even a pandemic until 3 months after the Obama administration responded, and it did not affect the American population. the way that this is going to affect each and every one of us.
Malcolm, look, as somebody who worked in intelligence, you had to deal with these things worldwide. Where do we go in the next 30, 60, 90 days? I was reading one particular report from some experts on the West Coast, university professors. They're saying, look, this is going to be America's way of life for the next 12 to 18 months. They say this is not going to be, hey, everything is fine, it's going to blow away in the next 8 or 9 weeks. We better be prepared for this to be a year, 18 months long. Agree, disagree?
I absolutely agree. You know, when I was in the military, I was involved in a program related to biological weapons and terrorism. And, you know, USAMRIID, the U.S. Army Research Center for Infectious Diseases, had the point for educating and developing the responses for the Department of Defense for a massive outbreak of you know, a biological vector into the United States. And their plans were aggressive from day one. I mean, mobilizing the National Guard, you know, seizing industry in order to create the, you know, the testing kits, putting a national and then global effort into developing a vaccine. We don't even see this administration meeting with the World Health Organization. Donald Trump actually expressed disdain for the head of the World Health Organization, essentially because that gentleman was a Tunisian and did not want the United States to accept their testing program, which is being used the world around, so that he could develop one in the United States through the CDC, which turned out to be a failure. You know, it had something like a 90% false positives rate or something along that lines. So we need to understand that for the next, certainly the next 90 days, you will have a very hard time seeing your neighbors, because we're not doing like South Korea, where they came out and blitzed this, tested almost everyone through drive-in testings, got a good handle on who was there, created a bubble of social isolation so that the population didn't have to be quarantined. We're leaning more towards Italy now, where entire cities will forbid you to go out. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You'll still be able to be around your family, but you will have to keep your distance from neighbors, and our way of life is going to change. This is a true natural disaster that, I'm sorry, has been exacerbated by the utter incompetence of Donald Trump and his leading advisors.
Folks, Malcolm Nance is the author of the book, The Plot to Betray America, How Team Trump Embraced Our Enemies, Compromised Our Security, and How We Can Fix It. Malcolm, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's happening now, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is. Thanks a lot.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment.
All right, so a lot of y'all always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Nope. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a Shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they basically about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these Shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All right, so first of all, that graphic is way too small. So tomorrow we're going to run it right down here all across the screen. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at rolandsmartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.